The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for our Product Knowledge Educational Series webinar. We'll be starting the webinar shortly in just a minute or so. So it looks like we're ready to get started. I would like to introduce you to our president, Meredith Burkich.
Well, good day, Immunotech family. Meredith Burkich, your president of North America and Europe, here to bid you welcome and thank you for taking the time to spend with us for this 30-minute session. We believe that we're going to add value to your time today as you become more familiar with a great product, one of our top 3 selling products here at Immunotech. As you know, we have every Wednesday and then available on demand a great educational series, and this is week 2 today, where we're going to be having our product knowledge seminar, and we're going to be, of course, with our esteemed Dr. Jimmy Gutman as our special guest. And just again, as a note, remember, these are recorded. They are all archived in your back office and available on demand. It usually takes us about a day to get them posted, but be sure to share them with a friend, share them with another member of your team, because the more that you become a product of the product, really just a walking ambassador for our incredible family of products, you want to know all that you can about how these products can change lives of all of the people who are important to you. So again, my name is Meredith Burkich, and it is my honor, it is my privilege to be with you, to be hosting this very, very special time, because Dr. Gutman, this opportunity that we have, if you are new to our family here at Immunotech, you may or may not be familiar with him, but just a little bit about Dr. Gutman. So that you kind of understand the level of quality that we have with this individual. He is a former professor at McGill University Medical School. His original specialty was actually in emergency medicine. And what is really interesting about him is that when he was a chief resident in the ER, he was just completely compelled over and over about all of these people that were coming in with conditions resulting from lifestyle choices, from things within a person's control, and he was just constantly thinking about, how could I be a part of the solution? And as he continued through his career, speaking at multiple national and international medical conferences, really around the world, it just continued to be a question in his mind. And so recently, of course, in the last 20 years, he became very accustomed to a special product, glutathione, and now is considered to be the utmost world authority. He has more articles and more books written on the topic than all others combined. So we have a great specialist, not only in the area just of this amazing glutathione product, but also across the board as a general, nutrition advisor and lifestyle coach. So I just want to say, welcome, Dr. Gutman. Thank you for joining us on the show tonight.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you, Meredith.
It's wonderful. Well, it's interesting. Some of the people might be popping on here, looking at the at this slide, saying, Immunotech booster. What does Immunotech booster mean? Excuse me, but I thought this was actually a different product entirely called Optimizer. You know what? It isn't. It is exactly the same product. It is exactly the same formula. But what happened was we did need to change the name based on some regulatory alterations that had to be made within certain markets, not in Mexico, but in the US and in Canada where the product is available. So in 2019, it's a new year and it's a new name. Same great product. But in addition to it being a new name now, the booster, we are also available to talk about it in an even improved way that describes better how we can help people live healthier lives. Phrases like switches on NRF2, your critical survival gene, phrases like the most powerful NRF2 switch on the market today. And then the final one that we can now say is very, very simple, which is what you're going to be helping us to understand even better. Immunocal increases glutathione. The booster optimizes it, and more. What a great, great segue into our talk today. Dr. Gutman, tell us what you think of this name, booster.
Oh, it's just perfect. It's actually the best descriptor of what it does. It boosts Immunocal. And in fact, it boosts most of the supplements that we're taking.
Well, and we all know that old expression, if it sounds too good to be true, ... But I'm sure you're going to convince us that actually, in this case, it is true.
Yes, of course. And I'm going to rely on what I always rely on, research to back up whatever I say.
Research. Okay, now I often open up these calls asking about why people find certain product category important. But this is interesting because in the case of this concept in particular, it's not new to a lot of the people, and yet some may not even be aware that it exists.
Yeah, you're right. This is based on science that didn't even exist a number of years ago. And I hate using the word, but I think in this case, breakthrough is a term that's really appropriate.
Okay, so Dr. G, last year we already conducted a webinar about Optimizer, now Booster. And I welcome all of you listening to this broadcast, either on replay or live, to go back and listen to that one also. You can access it on our podcast. You'll get the address at the end of the talk. But how is tonight's broadcast going to be different on this webinar?
Well, last time, we were talking about in broad terms about genetics and epigenetics, and we were talking about the major change that this is going to have on the way we practice medicine. I think this time we're just going to focus on more on what makes our optimizer or booster really stand out from the crowd.
Oh, I love it. Oh, this is going to be a great educational series. Let's go for it, Dr. G.
Yeah, good. So it's incredible how quickly the science of epigenetics, and in particular the science on NRF2 activators, is evolving. Sure, this strange sounding words for some people, and we had our webinar on this a few months ago, but since then there have been so many copycats out there jumping on the bandwagon, and though some do a really, really good job explaining the brilliance of this field, epigenetics and NRF2, very few of them deliver any results. So let's do a quick review for the people out there who didn't have a chance to look at our earlier material. Now, what most people know about genetics is that we're a result of what's coded in our DNA, the blueprint of information that lies inside of all of our cells. And of course, our environment can affect to a certain degree how this blueprint turns out. But the code was the code, and you were stuck with the hand that you were dealt with from birth. That was the old belief. That's what you find in all the old books. So throw away the old books, folks, because here's our new understanding of genetics. DNA point two. These are actually physical structures. What we see, these epigenetic tags that you see there on the slide, that can be tagged onto the DNA molecule. They sit outside the double helix, and that can affect how the DNA reads. Now, if you look at one of these little structures, this is what we call an epigenetic switch. Now, look what happens when the switch is turned on. See, it just turned green here. It's changing the DNA code as well. And by changing the DNA code, it changes the outcome too. Incredible. Something that can actually change our software. So let's look at another new word that's entered into our lingo recently, the NRF2 gene. Yeah, that's what you're just starting to see all over the internet now and on so many different web pages. So, what is the NRF2 gene? It's one of those switches that we looked at earlier. In fact, what research is showing us is that this switch is so important that scientists are calling it, and you mentioned it before, Meredith, our critical survival gene. That's a pretty profound statement. When things get tough, at a cellular level, of course, like a flood of toxins or a storm of free radicals or a tsunami of oxidation, the cell tries to activate the NRF2 gene to increase its chances of survival. And how do you activate the NRF2? How do you turn it on? As the term implies, you need to activate it. You need an NRF2 activator. And what does switching on the NRF2 gene do? It improves, get this, all of your antioxidants, whether you get them from your supplements or whether you get them from fresh fruits and vegetables. And look at the short list of other things that the NRF2 activator can do. It raises, not everybody's heard this before, but many of you have, something called superoxide dismutase, or SOD. It raises catalase. It raises detox function, and it raises, increases the repair of proteins, and on and on. But the real punchline here, especially for us at Immunotech, it raises the activity of glutathione. And that's why this is so special to me, and that's why I stumbled across it a couple of years ago. So when I started studying glutathione, Immunotech was pretty much alone as far as it comes to a non-drug way of raising glutathione. So how many companies are out there now, and you look at it now, that spin this beautiful story about glutathione, but when you actually test their products on humans, they don't work. Now it's the same thing with this NRF2 activator stuff. It seems that everybody now has this great story about NRF2, but just can't provide the research to show that their products actually work in humans. I've looked at many of these, and some of you may have heard me speak about them and dissect their literature. It's a bit of a shame. Many of these companies are just giving our industry a bad name. So what's been proven to work? Well, here you go, sulforaphane. This is something that we find inside of broccoli. So all these years, your grandmother was right. Eat your broccoli, it's good for you. Now we know why. It has the best NRF2 activator inside of it. And how do I know it's the best one? I've sat with people like Andrew Zimmern, Jed Fahey, and others from Johns Hopkins University. This is where, and these are all the guys that did the pioneering work in NRF2 activation. And they're very clear about this. Sulforaphane is the way to go. And there's something else you may want to do if you're a real keener. Look up the articles on PubMed. This is the best resource for examining existing published research. No researcher, no scientist spends a day without going onto this website. So you can too. And what do you find when you look up sulforaphane? Well, you find a lot. This substance is the most highly researched and validated NRF2 activator proven to work in humans. And again, if you have nothing to do one evening, you go ahead and look at these articles. They will blow your mind. So make the right choice. And if you don't know how to access the best, the most accurate information, non-biased information, just ask me, and I'll tell you how to get to it, or I'll do the research for you. So you need to do your homework. And what you'll find out is that what Immunotech is offering, you're not going to find anywhere else. We're the only natural glutathione precursor that's listed in the PDR and the CPS. And now we have the best NRF2 activator. Another unique feature about our booster, I need to point out, Wow, I'm starting to sound like a late night infomercial. Sorry, but
It's
I'm
all
I'm
great
excited about
stuff, Dr. G. Keep going.
yeah, all these beautiful colors that we find in fruits and vegetables. That's where the real money is when it comes to the phytonutrients. And we've added what we call reds and greens to the booster. And these reds and greens represent a long list of incredibly important plant-based nutrients, making this a superfood. Yeah, another term that's overused, but the point it's trying to convey is that it's going to provide you with things that are just really, really hard for you to obtain in your usual everyday diet, things that are so important for your health. And so when you add both the Immunocal and the NRF2 activator and the reds and the greens and the Immunocal, you've got something really, really special. So back to you, Meredith.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Gutman. I'm sure the people that are listening to this broadcast have a much better understanding now of how the booster not only stands out in the crowd, but how it can be applied to their daily regimen and really improve their health overall. So, in my mind, I think that we just need to think of it this way. If we just, build it down to 1, 2, 3, it boosts all antioxidants. Number 2, it supercharges glutathione. And number 3, it is a superfood, as you put it, providing us with the critical plant-based nutrients that our bodies need. And I heard you mention in the past that there's no other way to improve glutathione than actually accessing the appropriate building blocks for your cell to produce its own glutathione. How many times I've heard you lecture and talk about you can't take glutathione, you can't ingest it and have it magically be prominent in your body. What's different here is now science has discovered how to turn up the volume on glutathione making machine in our cells. We didn't know about this even a few years ago, and research marches on. And I think Dr. Gutman, as we kind of conclude and start talking a little bit about the tools, does this mean that we don't need to take our Immunocal? I'm sure that's a question that's going to be asked by our people. So I know the answer, but I want you to explain it to everyone, please.
Yes, for sure. That's a very valid question, but the answer is simple. You can turn the machine up, but if it isn't being fed the building blocks, it's not going to build anything. A powerful engine is useless if it doesn't have fuel.
Well, that's understandable. And so who should be using this booster? Of all the people that we know and come into contact with every day in our lives, who should be using it? Is it for people who are really challenged?
No, this is something we all need to do, because as the years go by and our food supply contains less and less nutrients, you want to get more miles out of all the food that you eat. And that includes the Immunocal and raising glutathione and raising all your antioxidants. This is something that everybody should be doing.
Great. Okay. All righty. Well, having said all of this, all right, we have a very interesting special to talk to everybody about as we enter into the new year. Of course, this is the perfect gifting opportunity, because you can go ahead and get yourself a few boxes of it at a great price. Again, 25% off of the price you're paying now. And then when you open up your box, you can sample it to people. It is really, really tasty. I mean, you don't even have to have your Immunocal right on the spot. If you want people just to taste it, plop it in their ice cream tea. I always do that, Dr. Gutman. But the reality is that it is a perfectly sampling opportunity, because you can take your Immunocal, you can take your platinum, and you can just add a little taste in there and spread it around at a very inexpensive price. I think that there's something else that we want to make sure that you're directed to, is that in your back office, when you go to your marketing tab and you look at your resources, we have some incredible sharing tools. So again, as you are gifting a stick of booster, you should absolutely 100% for sure download the sell sheet. I mean, this is a beautifully produced piece by our incredibly talented marketing team. With all of the catchphrases that are captured and approved by Dr. Gutman. But again, as we talked about those 3 statements, and also as I talked about at the beginning of the broadcast of what we can say now, especially this key phrase, Immunocal increases your glutathione, the booster optimizes it, and more. And as we talk about those 3 bullet points of boosting your antioxidant defenses, reducing oxidative stress, and extending detoxification up to 3 times longer, these talking points are on one beautifully, positioned flyer that when you hand this person this stick as a gift, you can give them the flyer, and then of course it will direct them to learn more on the web. But it's all right there for you. So I just invite all of you to use the tools that we're creating for you. Take these opportunities to make a difference in your world. And Dr. Gutman, thank you so much for joining us, as always, taking your time out, to help us to introduce the science of living better to all our friends and family. It's a wonder to be with you, and just my absolute joy to partner and walk on this journey alongside you. Thank you, Dr. Gutman.
The joy is mine. Thank you.
Thank you. And everyone else, please note, as we've talked about before, this webinar has been recorded. It will be available within 24 hours for you to share with a friend. And I invite all of you to join us next week. Please remember, this is a weekly series that was so successful last year with over 5,000 people, really stepping up their game by attending. And next week, of course, we are talking about how to maximize the compensation plan, which is one of the most generous in the entire profession of network marketing, especially for people in their first 30 to 90 days. They can get started right and put that money back in their pocket after they order their products to get it going. So anyway, all of you, happy New Year. Looking forward to rocking 2019 with all of you. And again, introducing how to implement the science of living better into everyone's lives of those we meet and love. Thank you again, Immunotech family.
Need to end the recording.
Our show's start recording button on, so I think we're good on our end.
No, it's still recording.
It is. Well, if you're still with us and you haven't hung up, happy day. We're going to go ahead and terminate this in just a split second.
Yeah, Dr. Goodman, go to the control panel and just hit the stop recording button.